Good morning. Good morning. Welcome. If I can have everyone take their seats, please. Thank you so much. Good morning. My name is Amanda Sutcliffe-Jones. I am the CSAC Pines Director of Communications. I welcome you to the April 3rd, 2019 Sea Pines Community Coffee. We do have a large agenda. Before I begin, just want to walk through some logistics for us. We are being joined by folks on the webinar, so please be cognizant. Good morning, everybody on the webinar. We have to remember that we have a camera here as well. We currently have, I believe, 25 folks joining and continue to come in. We had more signed up, but they're starting to file in as we begin the meeting. Some logistics and some safety reminders. Our exits are illuminated, so please make note of those. Coffee and donuts are over to the side. The restrooms are located in the back of the room. We do have a large agenda. We have special guests here today from the Turtle Trackers and also Amber Kuhn from the Turtle Patrol. So we want to get them up and be able to take questions for them while they're here. So what we'll do is welcome them to the stage, have them make their presentations, and then we'll do open Q&A for those individuals, and then we'll break into the staff presentations. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome the Turtle Trackers as well as Amber up to the stage. Linda Zambelli is also with Turtle Trackers, so I'd like to have you guys come on up and we'll get you started. Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. Welcome.
Good morning. I'm Linda Zambelli, and I'm sure you've seen my face out on the beach. Can anybody tell me what next month is? Next month, the start of turtle season. So that's why we're here. So we're a volunteer organization, Turtle Trackers, here in Sea Pines, but we're not just in Sea Pines. There are 4 other groups along Hilton Head Island. We have about 100 members in Sea Pines, but there are about 350 of us across the island. And what we do, or our main goal or our mission, is to educate on sea turtles, sea turtle nesting program, the sea turtle life cycle, and also to make sure our residents and our tourists know how to coexist while they're here during the sea turtle season, because it's very important. One of the main bits of work we do, or where we spend a lot of time on the beach, is, I call it beach management. So we make our beaches safe for our sea turtles, for the mamas coming up to nest and the hatchlings going back off to sea. And that would entail picking up abandoned furniture. I'm sure you see that on Saturday morning. Tourists have gone home. They've left their chairs and their tents on the beach. So we move them out of the way. Almost every day we're out there filling holes. Some of them are human size, so they're not just an impact to sea turtles, they impact us. And we pick up litter. So all of that work takes a lot of time and manpower. So we are very willing and open for anyone that wants to help us and become a member. So I will be in the back at the end. And some of our members who are here will be in the back at the end if you want any additional information. Our contact information is also on the Sea Pines Living website under Property Owners Clubs. So there's a little blurb about us and how to get in touch with us. But we are very fortunate this morning to be able to have our marine biologist and manager of the Sea Turtle Patrol on Hilton Head Island with us, Amber Kuhn.
I've been told I have 8 minutes. This is almost impossible for me, but I'll do my best. For those of you that don't know me, this is my 21st season doing it. So maybe you haven't even lived here for more than 5 years. I grew up here, and when I was a child, I had no idea what a sea turtle was. I didn't know they nested on our beach. I didn't know anything about it. And in fact, maybe 5 years ago, you guys probably hadn't heard much about sea turtles either. I met Karen Kinderman on the beach 3 years ago, and she wanted to start a volunteer group. And I was a little skeptical because people don't want to really work when they volunteer. They just want to see something cool. So eventually, and 3 years later, there are 350 helpers, and they do outreach programs. So I think the island has progressed quite a bit when it comes to knowledge of sea turtles. It was very close kept to the breast before, but now everyone should know, tourists should know, we get more and more tourists. We've had more and more sea turtles on Hilton Head. In 2016, our record year was 411 nests. But at the same time, we lost over 4,000 hatchlings to lighting violations on the beach. So that's unacceptable to me, and our campaign is moving forward with Lights Out. Our ordinance for the lighting is 28 years old, and I don't know about you, but I've changed a lot in 28 years, and so has sea turtle biology. So I've spent hours and hours trying to get the town to revise this ordinance, and it is underway. So by May 1st, I think we'll have a new ordinance that's a little bit up to date when it comes to the new biology of sea turtles. We're also working on getting some ordinances about these holes. You guys have maybe noticed, if you spend any time on the beach, that the holes have gone from this to larger than I can reach across. And I'm not sure what the change is. I'm not sure why we need these big holes, but what it does is it entraps nesting sea turtles, and it also entraps hatchlings making their way to the ocean. So at first, when I came up with this, I called it Hole Patrol, but that name wasn't very popular. it gets your imagination going, but we just fill holes now and trash pickup. With more and more tourists, we get more and more trash. And I will have to say that Sea Pines, to me, is the hub of sea turtle conservation for the island. Everything really, the outreach programs started here. One of our biggest donors is the Salty Dog Bob Gossett, who owns Salty Dog Cafe, and that's right here in Sea Pines. Turtle Trackers started in Sea Pines. The best dark beach is in Sea Pines. It's the largest community. You've got 5 miles of 14 miles of beach. So it's important to me that you do the best job that you can, because you do make a presence. A lot of tourists come to Sea Pines. So we are very grateful. Toby McSwain has given me a full access pass to Sea Pines, which makes it very easy because I'm in here all the time, including all night long for 3 months during the 2017 renourishment. If you didn't notice, my sea turtle ambulance / camper in the Tower Beach parking lot for 3 months. Anyway, I feel like I live here when I come through the back gate, and it's very welcoming, and I really, really appreciate that. In addition to Sea Turtle Monitoring, which is a South Carolina Department of Natural Resources program, all the beaches in South Carolina have a volunteer permit holder, and that's me for Hilton Head. And everyone who works with me has a letter of authorization under my permit, because sea turtles are endangered species. How many species of sea turtles are on the planet? If you are a sea turtle tracker, do not answer. 7, and 3 different ones nest on our beach. Do you know which ones those are? Okay, maybe we need to outreach a little bit further. Loggerhead, leatherback, green. Hilton Head got the only green nest in the South Carolina coast last year. So we've had 3 of them in 30 years. It was significant. The Sea Turtle Patrol Hilton Head Island is a nonprofit that started in 1997. For years, it had a parent organization that was very restrictive as to information that could go out. We, for the last 3 years, have been an independent 501c3 organization, and we accept donations, in case you didn't know that. The town in the past has funded the program, but now we are fundraisers for our own supplies. You may have seen the turtle Jeep. You can't miss it. It is bright green and blue with a sea turtle on the side, and it says Sea Turtle Patrol. So if you do see that, that's us coming through your community after we get off the beach. In the past, we had a John Deere Gator that would have to go up the beach and then come back down the beach after all the tourists were set up, and they set up a community event there. So it was really hard to get through, and a little bit of a liability because we don't want to hit anything. I ran over a fishing tackle box once. But we are grateful that we have access to Sea Pines so that we can get back to our jobs. this might seem like a job to you, and it is a lot of work. It is a job. It is the reason that I went to graduate school and paid $65,000 to work for free, half my life away. I am a boat captain that runs ecology tours out of Bluffton, which is actually where I'm from. Okay. So I want you to know how much work goes into it. Every year there's more and more work because we are making a point of reaching out to schools. I have several, Hilton Head Middle, I have Hilton Head Prep. We are teaching the middle school kids about filling in holes, picking up trash, making them aware that it does make a difference, and it really does. I lean heavily on the Turtle Trackers group because I can't do it all. I tried and it failed. So I need help. And also people who are willing to do things that might actually be work, like I mentioned before. So I really appreciate you guys. I appreciate this community as a whole, and I appreciate Toby a lot for keeping me safe in that parking lot for 3 months at night. Even though Seapond is not crime ridden, there were some situations where I was a little questionable. But it will be a great season. We are looking for at least 400 nests this year. As you know, we had snow in 2018, which I've seen snow twice in my life, and that was the second time, and I'm done with that. Hopefully that won't happen again. It killed the food source for the sea turtles that would normally beef up before nesting season, and because they didn't feel robust, they just didn't nest. So guess when they're coming back? This year, along with the population that's scheduled to come back. So they nest approximately every third year. So we are looking for a lot of nests. There will not be any nests between beach marker 1 and 13, and there will not be any between 134 and 122. The ends of the island are very erosional, so don't look for anything in that area. They'll be concentrated in a much smaller area, which means that you might actually see something this year with so many nests. But if you don't know how to handle that, if you don't know what to do, if you see a sea turtle, please ask us. It's very important that you never stand in front of them because they'll be misdirected. And everybody knows lights out starting May 1st, 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. Everyone knows that. It will hopefully be enforced this year, and I'll be the one giving the warning. So if you see me once, that's okay. If you see me twice, that's not okay. Okay. All right. So Amanda, did you say that we could have some questions? Does anyone have any questions about the program, about sea turtles? Yes.
It has been a couple of years ago, but I tried to report lights on at the beach. We were taking guests down after 10 o'clock and walked by a house that was completely lit up. And I called security and they said they didn't have any jurisdiction. And so I called the county police and they said they didn't have any jurisdiction. And so I had to call security back. And then finally somebody did something. But is there someone that does this?
Yes.
Everyone seems so confused about who would enforce that.
Thank you. Well, we do a patrol every Saturday night in June, July, and August, hoping that we catch the tourists on their first night because it's usually the tourists, not the residents. It is the town code enforcement officer. And we've produced, and Sea Turtle Trackers also raise money for these little flyers, and her number is on this one. This one explains who the Sea Turtle Patrol is, and those will be in the back of the room as you leave, as well as this sticker, which is just something really cool that you can donate and receive. But it is the town code enforcement officer, or you can just call me because I'm out with them every Saturday night during that time. So that's a great question. And we do rely on all of you guys because we can only go out once a week.
And Amber, CSA can also, CSA can also assist by making sure that information is posted on our website, sent out via email, and then also make sure that it's gotten to the rental management companies as well.
Excellent.
Yeah,
that's great.
Thanks.
And if you see anything on the beach that you would like to report, that is to me, or the stranding hotline, which is on some of the sea turtle trackers. I'm calling you sea turtle trackers. I don't know why. Turtle trackers information, and it can be anything because I also do dead marine mammals. So we get dolphins, we get whales, we get leatherbacks, which is a reptile actually, but someone asked me if it was a manatee. If you don't know the difference between a sea turtle and a manatee, I need to see you after this, okay? So we get mola fish, which are 4 feet long, and people have no idea what that is. Sturgeon, all of these animals that are federally protected, we need to know about so that I can necropsy them, send that frozen parts to Charleston National Oceanic and Atmospheric Association, who is in charge of marine mammals. And so just to give you an idea of what my life is, it's 75% volunteer and 25% income. Husband says, more boat, less turtles. That's never going to happen. So thank you guys so much. I really appreciate your support.
So I'd like to extend a thank you to everything that you guys are doing. It's such a great service. If you're on the beach and you see a hole, fill it, please. Not only from a turtle perspective, I'm sure they would thank you, but also people just walking on the beach or with their dogs or bikes or something like that. So it's so important. Like I mentioned, we will make sure that this information gets out to the property owners as well as guests and visitors, so we can, make sure they're aware turtle season's coming. And like Amber mentioned, as well as Linda, feel free to reach out to them if you're interested in volunteering. What a great program. So thanks you again for coming, guys. We do have a few people who have joined us. We do have a few seats open if you guys would like to take a seat, so don't feel like you have to stand, but just take a seat if you'd like to. So I have a good bit of information to cover. Toby McSwain typically would cover heritage for us, but he is at a meeting with the FBI and local law enforcement. So he is not going to be able to make it today. I know I'm not as funny as he is, so there's that, but hopefully I can still get the information to you guys. So let's go ahead and get started. This is an important alert that I received from the town of Hilton Head this morning. There are lane closures that the town of Hilton Head is conducting on Pope Avenue from the Sea Pine Circle to Lagoon Road. The town's, is completing milling and crack sealing along that area, and they will run those closures from Wednesday, April 3rd, which is today, through Friday, April 12th. So please be cognizant of that. That may cause some traffic issues outside the gate, so just please be aware. I'd like to call your attention to the bottom of the second paragraph. Today specifically, they are doing work from 7 to 9, so it already has taken place from the large portion of it. But after 9 o'clock today, one lane of traffic will be open on Pope Avenue. Traffic will be controlled through work zones via signs, traffic control devices, and flagmen. So just please be cognizant that not only is it a lane closure, that it is a lane closure specifically after 9 today, one lane of traffic on Pope Avenue. So if you have any questions, please contact Jennifer Lyle at the Town of Hilton Head, 341-4779. So our next item of business is a message from the finance department. Our annual assessments were mailed out in early January with a payable deadline of January 31st, 2019. If you have not made your payment, we ask that you please contact our finance department, Tracy McNeil, via email. Her email is listed there as tracym@csacpines.com, or by phone at 671-7812 to make your payment. At this point, the deadline has passed, so payment plans are no longer available. And effective today, April 3rd, 2019, the finance department is suspending guest pass privileges for those folks who have not made their payment. So if you want to get your funds in for Heritage, if you haven't made your payment, please do so. But the guest pass privileges will be cut off. So if you call down to the Sea Pines Welcome Center for a pass, they will direct you back to our finance department if you have not made your annual assessment payment. And we'd like to thank all the owners who have remitted their payment in a timely manner. Upcoming events. RBC Heritage, the 15th through the 21st. I have a lot of information to go over, so I will cover that a little bit later, but details, tickets, information can be found at rbcheritage.com. To support the Heritage, the Community Center does close for temporarily April 13th through the 22nd. This whole building will be closed. The command post essentially for the security sets up operations in this location, so it's closed to the public during those times. The annual meeting, I have information about that as well, but just save the date, April 29th, 3 to 5 at the Country Club. And there are no board meetings at this time for CSA or ASPO in April. May events, the Sea Pines Community Coffee. Next one will be on May 1st at 9 a.m. in this room. The Community Blood Drive is scheduled for May 3rd in the Community Center parking lot. Details and registration event information is coming soon. ASPO board meeting is planned for May 16th at 9 a.m. CSA's board meeting on the 21st at 3 p.m. And then we will have a wellness bus come from Beaufort Memorial Hospital on May 23rd from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. over in the Community Center parking lot. Some information about the ASPO and CSA annual meeting. Like I mentioned, it's on the 29th of April. It's from 3 to 5. It's over at the Country Club, which is 30 Governors Road in Sea Pines. Proxies were mailed out on March 26, 2019, and the proxy themselves, if you don't receive it by the 8th of April, we ask you contact us at info@csacpines.com, or you can call us at 671-1343. Additional proxies were mailed out. It came to our attention that some owners were not included in the initial proxy mailing, and our staff has identified those individuals, and we are working to contact them directly and mail them their replacement proxies. So we appreciate everybody's patience as we work through that. To ensure quorum is met for the annual meeting, we ask that you return your proxy by April 22nd to 175 Greenwood Drive. You can mail it, you can drop it off at our drop box at the office. It's right in the front door when you walk in. Important note, the date of record for this meeting, for the mailing itself, was March 1st, 2019. So you had to have been a CSA property owner by March 1st, or you had to have paid your ASPO dues by March 1st. So that's a really important key piece when we're talking about who was included in that proxy mailing. If you plan to attend the meeting in person, so you certainly can proxy to whomever you like, but if you plan to attend in person or let us know you're coming, you need to reserve a seat through our Eventbrite registration system. And you can do that by visiting seapinesliving.com/2019 annual meeting. Seating is limited to the first 350 property owners, mainly because that's how many seats we have at the Country Club. If you'd like to attend the meeting via webinar, you can do so as well. We have a live meeting webinar that is available. You can sign up as well at seapinesliving.com/2019 annual meeting. A question and answer session will be held at the meeting. They will be held after the formal presentations, and questions will be taken from the floor as well as those via webinar. So if you do choose to join via webinar, you can type in your questions and still participate. Some information on the beach shuttle. So the beach shuttle itself started on March 23rd. It runs through September 2nd from 9 to 5, 7 days a week. This is just some basic information that we've already put out, but it's available for Sea Pines property owners, your personal guests as property owners and your family members, weekly short-term rental guests, long-term renters, as well as authorized guests of long-term renters. There is a lot attendant there, and they are checking passes, so that's how we're monitoring who can use that particular lot. And this is some information about where the lots are located. Because of Heritage, we did have to bounce around some lot locations. Currently, we're servicing that shuttle out of lot 2, which is located near the Greenwood Drive trolley lot, which you can see starting on April 14th, which is coming up here soon. We will be moving over to parking lot 6, which is located on Greenwood Drive across from Lawton Stables. So just a few tidbits to pass. Toby provided me some numbers on the beach shuttle usage, and this was provided from March 23rd through March 31st, so just that initial first 9 days of service. And we have the numbers on how many people use the service. So in that first 9 days, 470 riders use the service. We had really high usage on Saturday the 30th, which is 87. Looks like on March 31st, 130. So you can typically see that the weekends are being more utilized than the weekdays. If it's very, very cold outside, it was very cold yesterday, it was cold a couple days ago, obviously that will reduce our ridership, or if it's raining. Interestingly enough as well, we do track it by car count. So our attendant is logging when somebody comes in what type of pass they have. If they are a day pass holder, they are not permitted to use that shuttle lot. But we do have those individuals, like I made mention of, who are able to use it. Owners, their owner guests, weekly rentals, long-term renters. The counts, let me just look at these really quickly. So weekly passes, 5, made about, and this is per car, about 40 of those rides were rental passes, and we had guest passes come in at 30. We had some relative decals come in as well. So there's a mix. Because we only had 9 days of reporting, I'd like to really be able to report on a complete 30-day outlook for us. So that will be forthcoming for us as well. At the next coffee, we have intention to be able to report on a full schematic for us to be able to show it. But do feel comforted that we are having a gate attendant there, or excuse me, a lot attendant, and they are checking those passes to make sure the appropriate people are using that lot. So again, beach shuttle information is available on our website if you would like it. Sea Pines Trolley. So we are moving over to the regular season trolley. The regular season trolley started on Monday of this week, April 1st. You can see the routes and locations there. You can visit seapinestrolley.com to track the trolley in real time if you're interested. Again, that is a little bit different. That's available for anybody to use if they'd like to. There are no restrictions on the actual regular season trolley itself, but you can see that service started on Monday, April 1st. Quick reminder before I move into heritage information, I put this up on the screen last time, but if you have had a change in your mailing address, this is a really important thing for us because we're going through this proxy project and we're looking to make sure we have as much information updated as we possibly can. If you are in Illinois and you're here in Hilton Head, or if you're moving back and forth or traveling, that's fine. But if you could at least keep your updated address as current with us as possible, that would reduce the amount of back and forth mailing-ish, if you would, as well as email address and phone number. You can do that in a number of different ways. That email is actually my email, info@csacpines.com. I'll be happy to get it to our staff to get your information updated. You can call us or you can even stop by the office. So, like I made mention, I'm not as funny as Toby, but I will do my best. Heritage. So, information related to CSA's tournament office hours. We do have extended office hours during the tournament. You can see that we actually have some Saturday and Sunday hours of operation. So please be aware of those. If you need to come to our office, those are modified hours during the tournament. You can also visit seapinesliving.com/heritage 2019 for all the information you're about to see that I will put up on the screen. Hang tags. If you live in any of these streets, please be aware you need a hang tag to access your property during the week of the heritage. That is a very important topic. Just by a show of hands, who knows they need a hang tag? Who already knows they need a hang tag? Good, thank you. That makes me feel better. The hang tags themselves are distributed from our office at CSA at 175 Greenwood Drive. You can pick your hang tag up in person. If you are doing so, you need to be able to show your property owner ID card or your driver's license. If you have any questions about hang tags, please call our office at 671-1343, or you can email us at adminoffice@seapinesecurity.com. Please be cognizant that hang tags cannot be replaced if they are lost or stolen. I'm sure somebody who does not live in the community would love to get their hands on a hang tag, so just be cognizant that it is an important thing to protect. So again, if you're in that roadway list, please come see us at CSA. Biking during the heritage. You can bike to the heritage if you'd like to. There are 2 different areas of which you can park your bikes in. It's the tennis courts near Harbortown, near the Harbortown Clubhouse or the 13th green, which is 16 Baynard Cove Road. This is a map of the actual bike routes, if you will. So we have this information posted on our website. We will continue to communicate it. The RBC Heritage also has it posted on their website as well. Back to trolley. So a little bit of a different trolley. This is the Heritage trolley schedule. It does service different routes during the Heritage, and it will provide service from 8 a.m. until 10 p.m. during the week of the tournament. For a full list of trolley stops, you can visit our website at that link located on the screen, or you can track the trolley in real time at seapinestrolley.com. Good way to get to the Heritage if it has a drop spot near your area. Handicap parking. Handicap parking is available for spectators that are coming to the tournament. They are required to get a hang tag from CSA to park in the handicap lot specifically. The handicap parking lot is actually located across from the CSA building, across Greenwood Drive, in that lot, sort of adjacent to Six Oaks, if you would. It's what we call Lot 4. Handicapped hang tags are required to park in that area, and you can contact CSA directly if you are interested in receiving a handicap hang tag. Uber and taxi information. Taxis and Ubers are restricted during the tournament play hours. That's an important part to recognize, play hours during the week of the Heritage. Once the last ball drops, the restriction is removed. Typically that varies anywhere during practice rounds around 6, but when we're actually in tournament play, that can vary into 7 or 7:30. But the road blockades would still be up until that time frame, and restriction is removed. If you cannot get to the taxi drop-off, which is located at the Sea Pines Center near the old bank, please call security at 671-7170 so we can assist you to be able to get through those. Prohibited items. Toby wanted me to make sure you guys were aware of these. To view this in a full detail, you can visit the RBC Heritage website to find out what their tournament policies are. They have some policies about camera usage. They have policies about cell phone usage. But really, these prohibited items are to make sure we're keeping ourselves safe and keeping everybody else safe around us as well. So take a look at those. I want to bring my purse just as bad as the next woman and have all of my stuff with me, but don't do it because they won't let you bring it in. So just kind of be cognizant of all of that stuff depending on the size of your purse and bag. So this is an important item to note. Toby covered this at the last community coffee. This is the 2019 TV compound on Baynard Cove Road. So if you live in and around or near Baynard Cove Road, please be aware of this road closure. It will go into effect on Wednesday, April 10th and continue through April 24th. During the closure, no bicycles, no vehicles or pedestrians will be allowed in the access portion of the closure that I'll show you on the next screen. Signage is actually being set up right now to prep for the April 10th closure of this area. This is an RBC Heritage closure, so for questions, please contact them related to this road closure. That's the Heritage Classic Foundation at 671-2448. So you can see the closure here. Let's put us into proximity. We are actually, let me just back. Yeah, there we are. We are right here in the center. This is Plantation Drive. Over here, this is where you would take Lighthouse to go down towards Harbor Town. So this is really the area that I'm talking about. The Baynard Cove TV compound will be in this area. So if you're in this location, you already require a hang tag to access your property in this location, but this is an actual blockade, if you will. So you would need to just be cognizant of that. This information is posted on our website and has been sent out via mass email. Important points of contact during the Heritage. If you have questions, CSA certainly is happy to point you in the right direction. This is an important contacts list. Our office, 671-1343. Our security department, 24/7. 365. If you see something, say something, call us. It's 671-7170. Like I made mention, in this building during the Heritage, it's Command Post Central. So we need those calls to come in if you guys see something. Sea Pines Pass Office, if you're calling a pass in for a friend or a guest, 671-7277, 7 days a week from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. And then again, the Heritage Classic Foundation's phone number is listed there. All right, at this point, I'll welcome David. David will cover a few items related to beach and boardwalks, party in the pines, leisure trails. So thank you, David. Thanks, guys.
Good morning. And thank you, Amanda. All right, another update on beach and boardwalks. The Forest Preserve trustees are reviewing some recent additions to the policy that came from the Sea Pines Architecture Review Board. So the moratorium is still in place. We are anticipating lifting it at any time. That moratorium is from beach markers 18 to 47. And we have put together an approval process guide that owners will need to follow in order to rebuild storm damaged boardwalks, and that will be made available as the moratorium is lifted. Again, if you are here as an oceanfront owner, or if you know any oceanfront owners, please let them know to contact me if they have any questions. I have had several owners, in the interest of time, that I have been able to get started in the process. You start with approval from the state, then you go to approval to the town, then you go to the ARB. An encroachment agreement is involved from the Forest Preserve Foundation. So there are things that you can do now as we're getting the final touches put on the policy and getting the moratorium lifted, so you're not necessarily held up. Just contact me and I'll be happy to get you started. So the ends of Tower Beach Boardwalks 13 and 14 are being raised and extended to meet post-storm conditions. If you have used Tower Beach here recently, you may have seen these changes. This is a picture before and after, before on the left, after on the right, of boardwalk number 13. That is the main boardwalk at Tower Beach that has been completed. Boardwalk 14, which is the secondary boardwalk there at Tower Beach, is in progress. And what you may be able to see from the photo in the before, which is on your left, you see these posts. Just to give you some reference, these are these posts back here. So what has happened is it has been elevated to get it out of the dunes, which it was in, as you can see, and extended out as far as we can. We have had some feedback from users that the ramp at the end of the boardwalk that's been finished, number 13, is too steep. So when we are finished with 14, we're going to go back to 13 and try to make some adjustments to lessen that slope. Our challenge is that we are required by the state to be 2 feet above grade all the way out to the seaward toe of the primary dune. So you have to maintain that height to a certain prescribed point, and then you have to ramp down to the beach from there. The challenge is that you can't just ramp all the way out onto the beach, because you have to be considerate of high tides. And the last thing that you would want to do is to block access to the beach during periods of high tide. So we're kind of painted into a corner in that we have to be a certain height at a certain point, and then we have to get you back to grade. But we will make adjustments where we can. And the intent would be that once 14 is finished, it would be opened, then 13 would be temporarily closed. That adjustment would be made to the ramp, and then they would both be open. So there will be access at one of the boardwalks or the other throughout this process. Party in the Pines. Y'all, I'm sure y'all have seen the gate sign. It is Saturday. Tickets are still available. We have an exciting menu courtesy of the Salty Dog. This is a great spring picnic themed fundraiser for the Forest Preserve. We hope that if you haven't purchased a ticket, that you would consider supporting the Forest Preserve. Would ask in lieu of time that if you are to purchase a ticket, try to do it the next day or two to give us time to get you a name badge and to get you in. But we are looking forward to that. That is this Saturday from 4:30 to 7:30 p.m. at Fish Island in the Forest Preserve. You can walk in, pay cash or check at CSA. You can go online, seapinesforestpreserve.org, and use a credit card, but a convenience fee does apply with a credit card purchase. All right, leisure trail directional signage. So CSA, we went through a pretty extensive process 3-4 years ago, in which we have completely redesigned our signage program, the materials, fabrication techniques, with the intention being to try to improve the aesthetic, but to do it in a way that will last longer and require less maintenance. And we have been, last several years, deliberately, as time and funds were available, replacing CSA signage. So we started at Fraser Circle, then we replaced, that was 3 or 4 years ago, then we went to major intersection signage. We then did the approach signage at the gate. Last year, I believe, we did the beach marker signs, which you may have noticed. These are these signs here. And so now we're into leisure trail signage. And the first phase of the leisure trail signage, which has begun, is on informational. We have a few courtesy signs, but primarily they're informational signs. And so this is what you're looking at here. Essentially, it's the beach marker sign without the number on top, which identified the beach marker location. The nice thing about that sign is that you can put information depending on where it is placed and how the trails are configured on all 4 sides if necessary. So we're trying to avoid a lot of what I refer to as the MASH signs. You'd remember MASH at the beginning, there's a sign and arrows pointing everywhere. So by having the ability to place the sign where it needs to go and to have the flexibility to use up to all 4 sides of the sign, we're hoping to make that a little bit better. And we're working really closely with safety and security and their subcommittee going through this process. We're looking in total of about 35 to 40 signs that will be going in. They're essentially replacing what is there now on these directional signs. There will be a few courtesy or etiquette signs that we want people to be aware of as they're out utilizing our leisure trails. And then the intent would be, once that process is completed, to then look to the crossing signs. So that's your stop sign, and in some cases possibly yield sign. We're working with an outside firm that will be conducting field work here in the next 10 days to make recommendations on where it may be appropriate at some of the less used intersections that have better line of sight to replace stop signs with yield signs, but we will be looking at that as well. This is just a picture of before and after. On the left, this is at the intersection of Plantation and Lighthouse. You can see the kiosk that is there, and this was the previous sign that was there. And then it's been replaced by this. And this particular sign has information, I believe it's on 3 sides. There's nothing on the back side because you can't read it. But you will see these changes going forward. And we hope that you see it for what we intend it to be, which is a needed replacement and a nice upgrade to what we have. Tower Beach, this is another one that won't go away. So I'm happy to report there's been slow progress. This is a South Island Public Service District project. We do list their phone number on there if you have questions. Specifically, what is going on, if you're not aware, is that they are in the process of repainting both of their water towers, one at Tower Beach and one just down the road here near the intersection of Lighthouse and Plantation. So they had to take the antennas, 4 providers at Tower Beach, 3 providers at the tower closest to us, move them to a temporary pole, which you can see in this photo at Tower Beach, repaint the water tower, and then go through the process of putting them back. Some folks have had their coverage affected because, as you can see, the top of that temporary pole is lower than the top of the water tower. So the update I have from last month's meeting is that Tower Beach was completed painting several months ago. As of Friday, this past Friday, Verizon has transferred over their tower, their antennas from the temporary back to the full. The other 3 providers at Tower Beach are still pending. The painting at the water tower here at Lighthouse and Plantation is mostly complete. I've been told that Verizon is going to go ahead because there's a lot of tournament operations that rely on Verizon, and it is South Island PSD's intent to go ahead and get the Verizon moved over at this tower. I do not have a schedule on the other providers that are pending. So some progress. All right, alligator movement behavior study. So we initiated this project back about a year ago. It was about March, and it's Nemours Wildlife Foundation and Clemson University. And the goal of the study was to look at alligator movements and behaviors in human-dominated environments. And we are one of 6 study sites. Some of the others that are in the area are Fripp, Spring, Kiowa, just to name a few that are participating as well. And they outfitted 6 alligators with GPS transmitters about a year ago. And as some of you may remember, we had one that went on a walkabout and went to Savannah. It was presumably lost at sea based on the last location. and we replaced that alligator. So we are at 6. It is our intent as we get location data from Clemson, and then they send it goes from the transmitter to the satellite to Clemson to us. But it is our intent, we will be sending out a link, Amanda and her team, through Constant Contact here pretty soon to allow you to go and look at what is available. And essentially what you'll see is that there are 6 alligators. They are color coded. We have them described by sex and size. So male, 10.5 feet, female, 7.5 feet. And you'll be able to go in and look. Is this the actual live link, Amanda? So when I told Amanda we'd like to do a live link, she was concerned. And because the first thing that came to my mind is, Joe Pesci when he's opining on the pitfalls of going to the drive-through. You never use live links at a community meeting. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you can Google that later, but not here. So we're going to give it a go. So this would be what you would see when you click on the link that we're going to send to you. Amanda, if you want to zoom on green there. So this data is from the month of February, which is the most current data that we currently have. I would like to thank Steven. Steven's behind the post, kind of the man behind the curtain over there for making this happen. So he's been able to take the data from Clemson, which is in raw form, and put it into here. So this is a 7.5-foot female that was captured on the Harbortown course. And you'll see these are locations. And Amanda, maybe you want to zoom in on those homes right there. If you live in these 2 homes, the alligator was not in your house. It's an important point. So there is an inherent amount of air. Even though this GPS is best technology that's there is an inherent amount of air. The graduate student, Angie Kidd with Clemson, she's a PhD student. She's actually on property today as we speak, said that 10 meters is not atypical. So we're assuming the gator was in the backyard and not in there. Amanda, if you would zoom out. Zoom in a little bit on the blue that's near the green there. So this was a good-sized male that was captured. Any of you that live in the Heritage Woods area, Baynard Cove, Heritage Road, that area over there, when you go to this link, you'll see that the street names are labeled, and so you'll be able to get a feel. This particular guy ranges over a pretty wide area. The males do range over wider areas than the females, but this canal system that runs through, you'll be able to see it. And that one that Amanda is circling right now is actually Baynard Creek. So he's made some forays out to Baynard Creek, which he has done before. Keep in mind, this is just February's data. So again, as we get additional information, we will send out the link again, and you'll be able to look to that information. And then one more, Amanda, if we could zoom out, maybe go to the Forest Preserve. Yeah, the red and gray, let's zoom in on those two. So the red is a 9.5-foot female, which is an exceptionally large female alligator. One of the consulting experts on this study, Thomas Rainwater, he's a world-renowned crocodilian expert, said that was the 3rd largest female he's ever seen in South Carolina. So we were able to identify her with help from H2O. They have their alligator and wildlife boat tours that they give out there. And so those guides are on the water almost every day, and they have years of experience, and they knew that this was a female. And when we captured her last year, the team from Clemson was like, "Are you sure that's a female? Are you sure that's a female? Are you sure that's a female?" And you can't tell, and I won't tell what you have to do. It involves probing in a pair of gloves. But as it turned out, it was a female. And so what you're seeing from there is that you're seeing these tightly clustered. Well, guess what the females are beginning to do now? Nesting season, okay? So that's what that is. The gray, you see a cluster there kind of at the bottom left and then a top right that Amanda's showing you. This is our largest alligator that was captured in the Forest Preserve, 11.5 feet, a male, so big guy. And so what we've seen from him over time is that they range over pretty wide areas. He's been over the past year everywhere from out in front of prep. It's a real popular place for alligators there in front of the prep school. He's even been off property on the other side of Cordillo Parkway. You don't see it in this data set, but in previous sets, that's where he's been known to range. And so what we're seeing here is that clump of data right there is essentially the last 2 months worth of data. And so when you see a clump like that, it causes one to have questions. And what we have deduced is that he has lost the transmitter. But the good news is that it's still transmitting, which means that we got lucky if this is the case and it's not submerged, because if it's submerged, we can't get data from it. So as we speak, the graduate student, along with the wildlife officer, Sergeant Bowers, is trying to put their hands on that transmitter. Now, it's possible it's still attached to the alligator and the alligator's not moving. We don't think that's the case, but I'm going to wait and see if they can find that transmitter before we send this link out. So forget what you just saw, but we're trying to find it. All right, with that, I'll welcome Russell. Appreciate your attention.
Good morning, everybody. It's going to be really challenging this morning to follow up on David's presentation and Amber. For sure, my information is a bit drier and plainer. And certainly with Toby not here this morning, we're missing his commentary. But we have as you know, we have quite a few projects that we have been working on for many months. One of them, the Greenwood Drive roadway construction, along with our landscaping. And our contractor, who's been performing the landscape enhancements, has been doing an excellent job. And we're in the final stages of wrapping that work up ahead of the Heritage Tournament. Some photos here and some final details being completed along the area where the trolley station is. Some befores and afters of conditions that we had out there, and again, just trying to enhance the landscaping in these areas to make visitors' experience to Sea Pines, very pleasant as they're both parking their car and getting onto the trolley to go down to the beach or wherever it may be. So again, some fairly modest improvements here, but do go a long way to improve the experience in that location. Again, some before and after photos. Lighthouse Road reconstruction, we spoke about this before, but we are planning on resurfacing the roadway from Plantation Drive to Harbortown. David mentioned some of the leisure trail signage at the intersection of Plantation Drive and Lighthouse Road. There's a crosswalk there that we plan on relocating to improve safety in that intersection, along with some other crosswalks in Harbortown down by the bakery and so forth, are currently dumping the public out into driveways and entrances into the bakery and so forth. So we're again looking to relocate those areas, those crosswalks. Some of the other highlights of the project will include replacing some of the curbing, drainage in the area, the drainage along Lighthouse Road that we need to replace as it's failed over time. So again, exciting project for us this fall, and one that's going to require a lot of patience from everyone, as we know this area is very, very congested with vehicles and pedestrian traffic. So Plantation Drive Leisure Trail is a project that's in our queue for the season, planning to resurface the leisure trail later this fall. Working through some of the details on that now. Again, but this goes from Greenwood Drive all the way down to the corner of Plantation Drive and Lighthouse Road. So again, that leisure trail will be resurfaced. And you can see some of the current conditions there. Primarily the edges of the leisure trail have failed over time. So we'll be milling that and repaving it. Concrete beach walk repairs we've been busy out there doing a lot of this work. This happens to be a photo from beach walk number 17. We've pretty much in the final stages of this, trying to get ahead of the season and not interrupt anyone's trip to the beach. So again, these are repairs to some of those existing walkways on our beach walks. Again, some additional photos where we've had the opportunity that we've created some new tie-ins with the boardwalks, flaring out some of the ends of the concrete to make those transitions a little bit easier when you're going to the beach. wanted to share some details of what we're working on with, we've been in working with ARB over the last few weeks and our engineer on plans for our beach boardwalk construction. And these are boardwalks that were damaged during Hurricane Matthew. You can see here in this top sketch or rendition, one of the things that we have to do, as David was talking about, we have to cross the dunes and then also maintain this 2-foot elevation above grade of the dune. And in some areas, for instance, down at Beach Walk number 20, we have significant sand accumulation on a second dune that's forming. So with that, our goal would, in this case, would be to maintain a smooth transition across this area. Therefore, the elevation of that boardwalk would be greater than 30 inches, requiring this guardrail that we would have to build on either side of the boardwalk. The boardwalk would be 6 feet wide. Now, this guardrail here would be similar to the recent projects that we've done at the Sea Pines Bridges and over at Front Pond. We plan on installing a horizontal stainless steel cable in these locations. And this is a typical section of the work. And this height would be a 42-inch height off the boardwalk. So again, just wanted to share that with everyone to make you aware of what we're working on. In areas that we don't need to do that, we would try and contour the boardwalks and follow some of that grade. But we want to minimize what we call a little bit of a roller coaster effect. But when and where possible, this is the goal, and this will be the standard. There'll be a curb on the other side of that, but again, we're maintaining this 2-foot height above the dunes as part of that project. So again, happy to take questions afterwards, but that's what we're planning on. Also, some enhancements we're making on Sea Pines Drive by Beach Walks 25 and 26. We're installing some landscaping in an effort to deter some parking along there. We've had this raised by numerous property owners over the past months. Right now we're working near Beach Walk 26, and we plan on extending some of that landscaping down towards number 25 as well. North Sea Pines Leisure Trail, I've presented this before. This project has been stalled, but we hope to get this going more than likely at this point after Heritage at some point or in the fall. But want to remind everyone what we're doing over there. We're going to be widening the existing leisure trail between Beach Lagoon Road and the Sea Pines Beach Club. As we all know, there's a confluence of traffic over there with bikers and pedestrians. But again, we're looking to widen the leisure trail by 4 feet in total through this area. We've been working closely with the Monarch on this project, and I think everyone agrees it will be a great improvement to the area. So more to come on that, and I'm hoping to again complete this work sometime early fall at this point. Some other projects that are ongoing and that we're working on. Audubon Pond Road and Spotted Sandpiper repaving. Still working through the schedule. We're looking at May for Spotted Sandpiper. We're working closely with PSD on Audubon Pond Road. They have some upgrades to make down there to their infrastructure, so we're going to try and coordinate that schedule with them. Mulching and pine strawing operations are still in progress. We've seen a lot of progress out there on Fraser Circle. But again, trying to dial everything up for spring. Also, we're going to be working on upgrading our existing irrigation systems throughout Sea Pines, so we can make sure we keep all our plant material alive out there. Some of the projects I've mentioned before: Sea Marsh Bridge, which is behind the Plantation Club Country Club Golf House. We will be making improvements to that bridge in June. So that's a project that will probably take about a month to complete in total. Vine eradication, we are trying to rid Sea Pines of these vines that are engulfing the community, and we're making progress there. We've been working in several areas, especially along Lawton Drive, and then around Fraser Circle and so forth. I mentioned the beach walks that we'll be making repairs to. Again, for everyone's, just a reminder, beach walk 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 29, 31, 32, and 33A, and then number 40. We're planning on replacing the beach walks or boardwalks that are missing as a result of Hurricane Matthew, and then going back and building the new boardwalks where we still have some. So again, that project we're looking to get started. David, you have to lift the moratorium yet, and we're still waiting for some additional information from the town of Hilton Head. So, and then we also have a pedestrian railing at Baynard Park Road that we'll be repairing as well this season. Wanted to share this with everybody. We presented this recently to our MEMP committee. Our stormwater crew has been doing an excellent job out there. I think everyone's familiar with the Sea Pines hydrology study that was executed by Pittman Engineering. But again, our crew was started this past season. And again, just want to point out some of their accomplishments. We've cleaned 682 catch basins, excavated over 1,000 linear feet of ditch, and cleaned over 10 miles of pipe. So just to put it in perspective, this is about 30% of the infrastructure that we have in Sea Pines. So I'm projecting that hopefully by the end of the season of 2019 that we could be fairly close to somewhere between 80 and 100% of completing this work. So again, these were all deficiencies that were pointed out in the hydrology study, and this was regarding maintenance now, not replacement. So the hydrology study still speaks to replacing 36 miles of pipe. And as we all know, that's a 20-year plan and one that cost about $36 million. So again, kudos to our staff. They've done a great job out there. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Brett Martin. Thank you.
Thank you, Russell. Thanks everybody for, and especially our guests, the Turtle Trackers, for coming in. What a great program, and great to see it continuing this year. Looking forward to working with you. I did want to respond on one thing that was mentioned about us. First of all, let me get Amanda's comment on Toby's humor. I don't look at Toby as being funny. Okay. Toby to me, if those of you who have seen a couple old Paul Newman movies, Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid and Cool Hand Luke, had a character actor named Strother Martin in those movies. And Strother described him, and I can't remember which movie it was, but Strother described himself as colorful. And to me, that's Toby. He's colorful. I did want to talk about Turtle Trackers, though, and our response to that. And it was correct that we don't write tickets to enforce code, but we do respond. It's okay, so we can't go write a ticket to somebody, but if someone calls us about lights being on, security will respond and knock on the door and ask them to turn it off. But that's about as far as we can go. So we will respond, but we can't force them to turn those off. We can report them to code enforcement, though. So when we get a call in, we will refer that to code enforcement about that specific property and let them know about it. So I just wanted to clear that up. I want to talk a little bit about the referendum and where we are. And I think those of you who attended the last board of directors meeting for CSA, Mark gave a quick update on some additional language that we're developing. Amanda, go ahead and move to the next screen. And it's really things that you've already seen. We've removed the real estate transfer fee. Residential property owner assessment should be a phased increase that will be phased in over time. We think about 3 years starting in 2020. And currently we're developing language about what we can do to provide a summary of both the revenue and the related expenses to the revenue in our annual report. So we're getting that language developed to assure everybody that we'll report on where the money goes and where it comes from. And then also looking at language in the covenants don't speak to it specifically, but they certainly provide an opportunity to reduce future assessments if we don't have need for funds. So we're looking at some language to clarify that and to make sure everybody is aware of that for the board of CSA. While the needs within the community and the funding shortfall remain unchanged, the path forward to address the needs through a referendum are being updated and based on your feedback. And this is really us diving deep into the results of the survey, looking at what people have said, and trying to get to something that we can get support of 75% or more. I mean, I'd like to get a lot more if we can, but that's a challenge, as everybody might imagine. But we think we can hopefully get very close, if not, it'll go over that hump and get the referendum done. So with that, I think we're ready to go to a quick break for 5 minutes, and then we'll come back for Q&A for everybody. Okay, thank you. Okay, if I could ask everybody to take their seats, we'll get started with Q&A. You can try something new.
Okay, before we get started with the question and answer session, for those who are joining us via webinar, the questions option has just appeared on your screen. So if you are on a mobile device, if you're on a tablet, if you're on a desktop, you can access that question and answer section of the webinar platform now. These are the directions. We are going to try something a little bit different for the folks on the webinar. After this screen goes, you will be transitioned to only seeing the camera view instead of having a consistent agenda view on the screen. I've gotten some feedback that it would be better to see the camera option on a larger screen platform. So we're going to try that in just a moment. When you go back to watch the videotape, you won't see the agenda on the screen. You will just see the camera and those who are speaking at the podium. So we'll get started with that. Fingers crossed it goes well. All right, Brett, we'll go ahead and start Q&A.
Okay, questions for anybody? This gentleman here, David.
Yes, John McHenry. I've been a resident since 95, but one of the things that I just had a question about this week in view of the fatality out on Plantation, the liability question comes to my mind right away of the Plantation's liability and some of the observations that I've made about both residents and tourists, bicyclists not stopping at the stop signs. And maybe the yield situation might modify that a little bit. But 2 days ago, I'm on Greenwood heading in, and there's someone from, I guess, the volunteer bike patrol was on a bike path and passing him right by on the roadway on Greenwood was a 10-speed racing bike guy with helmet and racing clothes on and everything else, driving right by in traffic.
Sure, yeah. We see him out there. We do stop them when we see them and ask them to get on the path. Well, it's not illegal. It's against our rules. That's basically it. So we ask them to get on a nearby pathway when we catch them out there.
Bicycle companies.
Yes.
And rental companies.
Yes.
We don't rent anymore, but we had rented in the past.
Mm-hmm.
And we had one of those magnet stickers with the rules of the road for bicyclists on a refrigerator. And it was taken down by the cleaning staff from one of the major rental agencies in the Plantation. And the resort took it down.
Yeah, I don't know about that. We certainly provide to all the rental property management companies the rules. And we ask them to display them prominently, either in their packages or in their units. And some of them do, and some of them don't. But we certainly request that of others, and certainly we would request that of any property owner who rents their property as well. And it's good information for everybody about the rules of the road and the rules within Sea Pines to try to keep everybody safe and secure. We've got it available. We talk to the rental property management companies every spring and fall at least about these things. We bring them in for meetings and review those things and provide them with the information. But just like the biker who's on the roadway or the car driver who's speeding, we can't make them. We can only cite them for illegal activity. And if they're performing legal activity, we just inform them of the rules and ask them to move to the side. So, others, Terry, back to Terry.
Great. Thank you, Brett. Thank you, Dave. I wanted to speak to the referendum. And I think my public position has been pretty well known that I want to see us have the money to do replacement. Clearly, I have issues with some of the problems, and I'm not discussing that. But obviously, as a part-time resident here, and my unfortunate sojourn is getting ready to leave. Oh, I'm Terry Weiss on Ridgewood Lane. Sorry. But I'm getting ready to go back and freeze my butt off in New York. And that means that my participation in the referendum, if it happens during the summer, will be long distance, along with roughly 60% of our property owners. Now, as a non-resident, you obviously need us. And I think most of us are perfectly willing and able and want to participate. But that leaves me with a question of how involved are non-participants in governance of Sea Pines? I've been working on the bylaws committee. I think we've had 5 meetings, Charlie can correct me, over the last 13 months. And recently had actually the privilege of meeting Steve Alfred on the Leisure Trail Committee. I was absolutely blown away by him. So I may be working on that committee as well. I was honestly flabbergasted at how amazing he is. But that leads me now to our actual governance and our actual non-resident participation. If you need us on the referendum, which you clearly do, and we want to be involved in the referendum, we have to be more involved in CSA governance and ASPO governance, and we are locked out of it. And except for the 2 committees that I've been involved in, I think there are a few more that are allowing non-residents. I received the following letter on my second request to be a member of the governance committee, which I'd like to read because I think it's important for us. And it says, I asked about being in governance and I was told, because the governance committee is scheduled to meet approximately every 3 weeks, which obviously isn't true because I was just at the meeting where governance hadn't met every 3 weeks. I was told to schedule, I chose not to add any non-resident property owners to the committee. For me, attendance at regular and unexpected meetings would be just too difficult for them. Obviously, we have technology. Just saying. This letter continues, while I am aware that the market has tools available which would allow non-attendees to participate in meetings, the result of our past efforts just hasn't been that good. Non-attendees aren't able to have open face-to-face dialogues. Non-attendees can't see the slides being used at some presentations. This is especially true when changes in the numbers or contents are being made as exchanges continue. Our current phone system doesn't allow for non-attendees to always hear the conversations. As a result, non-attendees who often repeat questions or ask questions, which have the answers already on the screen, and thus slowing down the meeting. Attending committee members are more active and integrate better into the discussions than those not in attendance. Having chaired several committees over my 5+ years on the CSA board, I've placed non-resident property owners on my committees. I've also served with non-resident property owners on the committees, which I did not share. And the concerns I have listed for you aren't isolated, but shared by other committee chairs. Now, I actually take extreme umbrage to this email. And having now served on one, and hopefully the second with Steve, I can tell you that I am an active member, that I do participate, that we have Skype, that we have technology. My point is, if you want us to be happily engaged, which you do and which we do, we have to be treated with a heck of a lot more respect than this. And we have to be put on governance. We have to be put on the boards. We have to be, because if we're not, you're going to have a lot of angry non-resident property owners. That's all I'm saying. You have to do something about this. This has to change. We need tech. We need to do something about it. This is an offensive way to deal with at least this non-resident property owner. Thank you.
We agree. I mean, we're moving to tech. I mean, simply doing some of the things at a time as we go forward, as we do webinars and the ability to do those types of things. But you know, we're a long way from where we were a couple years ago, but we have a long ways to go. Certainly in our technology advancement and in our communication processes to bring more of those non-resident and investment folks that may not be living on the island into the governance of CSA and Sea Pines.
Well, Brett, I appreciate that, but if that's true, this kind of email has no business being circulated to this property owner. No business. And I do not deserve, nor does any other non-resident property owner deserve to be told, we are not putting you on a committee because you're a non-resident. We are not putting you on a committee because we lack the technology. That's just nonsense. And I honestly, if I apply to governance next year, I don't expect to receive this email again. Thank you.
You're welcome. Other questions? Yes, sir.
Dick Penfold, 2218 Heritage Villas. Has CSA accepted the resurfacing of Greenwood Drive? Have you accepted it from the contractor that it's complete? And
well, there's a year warranty on it, so it's not fully. There's a and I don't recall, is Victoria here, what the set aside that we have still, but they have to come back after a year of completion after we've accepted it, quote unquote. But yes, it's been preliminarily accepted, subject to any failures that occur over the next year.
so the resurfacing is not as smooth as it was before we had it resurfaced.
If that's your opinion, that's
Okay.
your opinion. So
In terms of looking at the new one that's coming up for the resurfacing the Lighthouse Road, are you using the same contractor?
on Lighthouse, we don't have contractor bids in yet, do we? No.
Will you be using the same criteria for acceptance?
That's the standard contractual South Carolina code language in the contract. You know, we don't anticipate, there are higher standards, but they're assigned to higher speed limit roadways. Okay, other questions? Larry?
This one's for Russell. I'm just curious about the maintenance of the drainage ditches and stuff like that. That since you're going through there, I'm assuming we haven't done it for a long time, and so you're going through, that you've identified or you have a plan, even though we have to replace stuff, and I know that, but you're doing this stuff. Do you have a plan to go back and identify those that fill up or that you have to continue to maintain instead of going through and let's say you start at the beginning of the Sea Pines and go to the end and say, oh, once I get to the end, I'm going to come back to the beginning, but that may be 3 years down the road and this thing's all filled up or it's hidden again and we hear the same type of thing. So I assume, or I'm not going to assume, okay, I don't like to use that, but I would ask if you have a plan now that we've identified these types of things, that we have guys that go back and say, hey, you know, this guy's going to fill up in another month, it'll be full, or in another 3 months, it's going to be full. So we're going to go back and keep that one open because I mean, anything you do has to be kept open now. So rather than wait until it fills up and then, you know, say, oh, surprise, we need more money because, you know, this is now 10 feet under. Anyway, you get my point, right?
Yes, sir. To try and answer the question, it's a little complicated in terms of the ditches and or lagoons. We're working through a process with the state of South Carolina as probably 50% of the Sea Pines is under the jurisdiction of OCRM in a sense of I can't just go into certain ditches and start dredging and excavating. Some of the ditch work that we have done has been in what I would refer to as swales or dry ditches in certain cases. The town of Hilton has also been in Sea Pines performing excavation of some of these ditches. They are covered under what's called an MS4 permit, which allow them to do such. We are not. At this moment, and that's why we're working through our permitting process with the state of South Carolina and the town that would give us the ability to go into the ditches throughout the community and lagoons. That would include bank stabilization and so forth. It's a very comprehensive program that we need to launch. Currently, we're not funded for that. The ditch work that we've done to date is what I would describe as reasonably modest compared to the size of the property and the extensive nature of lagoons and ditches throughout Sea Pond. So a lot more to do. And to answer your question on the plan, our team has been out there jetting lines and cleaning catch basins as per the the hydrology study, and we've been working through on a zone by zone basis. That would be our intention on the lagoons as well, depending on what priorities they were given as part of the hydrology study. Certain lagoons and ditches were given a much higher priority due to the fact they're already filled in, and then they would require a maintenance program moving forward to answer your question. So it's complicated with it. The permitting is the really complicated part of this whole process. And that, yes, that would be our goal, is to try and maintain those, and going in there, if some fill up faster, if it's annually or biannually or whatever that need would be. So yes, sir.
Gentleman back.
I read recently that we are power washing the gallery building.
We are. Yes.
Why?
Because it's filthy and ugly, and the leaves are all over the top, and it's in our front yard.
And when are
As
we
you come
tearing it
in,
down?
we don't have a date.
Okay, so in other words, we're putting lipstick on a pig for temporary reasons.
Well, we're trying to take a little mud and slush off, so.
And
Sorry, thank you.
Brett, can you give us the Cliff Note version of the referendum, the points that you have made progress on and that you think you have agreement on, and those points that are sticking points that you're still working on?
Well, I think that's what I attempted to do. So the process is that we're at now is actually drafting an amendment that I hope to get agreement from the board of CSA on, as well as the Sea Pines Resort. I need both of those agreements. So it's in the lawyer's hands now to try to get to something. We're looking at how we can do this. We're also trying to figure out how we match, what we're proposing here, which is delayed revenues from what we had in our initial plan to delayed expenses that we anticipate having out there. We haven't gotten through that exercise to see what has to go together and can be deferred. So we're in process of it. We hope to have something. I hope to have something by the end of the month for the board to review and take action on. Yes. Was that give you enough? Okay.
Hello, Sheila Ferguson. Brett, speaking of the gallery of shops, is that when you look at that 12/5/17 CSA board minutes and look at the resolution regarding the purchase,
yes,
the last sentence says, Mr. Martin further agrees, acknowledges, and understands that any and all information, documentation, and details of the transaction contemplated in the letter of intent and the purchase agreement shall be kept confidential until closing occurs, at which time such information will be made public. When will that information be made public?
Sandra, do we have all the documentation compiled yet? Because it was indifferent. We're pretty close, and we'll be posting it to the website. So we'll send out an email so you can find that. I think title search is one of the things that we have. We have the title insurance policy, those kinds of things that we want to be able to relate. We also had to go back to our attorney and make sure that in the terms of the contract that we can do as much as we can do. So, and I think we're going to have a pretty complete disclosure on that, Sheila. Okay. You're welcome. Yes. You're welcome. Other questions? Christopher? Hold on, let me get. Gene's running.
Thanks, Gene. Before I ask the question, I'd like to thank Russell for resolving the accumulation of water at the end of lot 2, which at the previous community coffee there was a lack of acceptance that there was accumulating water. But
We
great,
still have
Russell,
some work to
thank you.
do on that, but
Yeah.
it's better.
Yeah, it looks a lot better, yes. So thank you very much. Question, Brett, could you take a moment, please, and go back to your slide on the referendum? I didn't quite understand your explanation about the, let's wait for the slide if you can, if you don't mind, please. Is it coming? No? Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Brett, it's your first Chevron point.
Yes.
Developing language in the amendment to provide for a summary of revenue and expenses in our annual report.
Mm-hmm.
And then the one below, I don't quite understand what that means. If you could explain it, please.
Well, I think I tried to explain that in the 1974 covenants, which establishes the assessments, it's fairly vague about future assessments and it's nothing references the CSA in the original. So we're trying to clarify some of the things and the actions by that board. And one of the action is the possibility of reductions in the future if you don't have a need for funds. So those are the languages that we're trying to put together for board consideration. And then we will, also get the resort to weigh in on that. So hopefully we can get that. It's a direct result from comments that were made in the survey about, what these look like projects. And certainly the 14 Greenwood Drive or Gallery of Shops project is pretty much a one-time project, right? So it's going to be done and sunsetted. We do have to provide for reserves for that building in the future, but other than that, your construction is complete. Most of the other projects that are listed under here, though, are ongoing 20-year, 15-year, long time. But if for some reason, there's no reason to have that funding in place, there's no reason to have the funding in place. Now, our assumptions on those are pretty conservative. I mean, we think that the inflation that exists today for these specific types of things is greater, especially when they're labor intensive, is greater than CPI. And that's what we're able to increase the assessment by. So we're not sure that there's any specific projection that we can count on for the future to pin us down or pin CSA and C-Pines down to making a refund. But if the funds aren't needed, the funds aren't needed.
Okay. My understanding, if you look at the 2010 annual report, is that the directors chose not to increase the annual assessment.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't recall the particular covenant in which they exercise that authority.
Right.
So you can do that.
Yes.
But what I'm not understanding, and I'm sorry, my question wasn't terribly clear. Developing language in the amendment. Which amendment are you referring to?
Well, the referendum is about a vote on an amendment to the covenants. That's what the referendum is. You vote on an amendment to the covenants. That's the language, considering language for that amendment that would allow a future board to reduce it if those funds are not necessary.
Okay, so the amendment in that language is reference to amendment of the 1974 covenants. Now on your points 1, 2, and 3, I see no reference whatsoever to the resort's offer to go from 0.5% of their adjusted revenue to 0.75%. Is that no longer?
No, those three were just the things we took out. The resort's still at an increase of 0.25 to go to 0.75.
Okay. So can I just clarify then?
Sure.
My understanding then is the language to amend the 1974 covenants will include a proposal to remove the ambiguity that surrounds whether the resort should be paying 1% or what they're currently choosing to pay, 0.5%, and replace it with 0.75%.
Well, I don't have the language in front of me, Christopher, but it's my understanding we are amending the portion of the covenant to increase it from 0.5 to 0.75.
No, the covenant is the 74 covenant is quite clear what it says. The resort has chosen to pay 0.5%. I'm not questioning whether that's right or wrong at this moment. I'm just saying that's what they've chosen to do. But that amendment that you're talking about there makes no reference to amendment of the 74 covenants to address the issue regarding the 1% or 0.5% or 0.75%. What I'm trying to find out is the language that you're working on going to propose to the board and to we property owners that amendment as well? That's what I'm asking.
Yes, I mean, I'm not sure what you just asked.
Yeah.
But, you know, we're certainly trying to clarify that the resort's going to pay 0.75.
Okay.
And they've agreed to that.
And that's going to be enshrined in, if the vote goes through, in a revised amendment, yes? A revised covenant.
Well, yes, in the amendment to the covenant.
Right. Okay. That's what I'm trying to clarify.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not sure who had their hand up first. Let's take this lady, then we'll take the lady, David, the lady in the back.
Hi, this is Angela Pedraza from Carolina Place 3407.
Yes.
As you're working on modifications in the language for the amendment, that's not set yet. Yet the vote is set for April 29th, if I
No.
understand correctly.
No, that date has not been set. There's no amendment to set. I need approval from the resort and from the board on the actual amendment language. So we're working to try to get that done as soon as I can get the board to act on it.
Oh, okay, so what's going on April 29th? Because we're supposed to
And
vote.
we have an annual meeting for the property owners in Sea Pines for both
okay.
ASPO and CSA.
Okay, but then this is going to be, the referendum is going to be done at a separate time.
Well, I anticipate we're going to be talking about the referendum at the annual meeting. So, you know, but I don't know. I hope to have it done, but I can't tell you I'm going to have it done without
So that
everybody
was
agreeing.
because my thinking was if you're working on amendment to the language and
Yes.
it's doing 4 weeks and we don't have the language, how are we going to vote?
Well, you'll have time.
Or
You know, the prescription in the covenants allows at least 30 days, but no more than 60 days on review of the amendment.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Lady in the back.
I'm at Christopher's question. I think what he was trying to ask, and I'll put it in very plain language, is we're going to codify a discount to the resort to what they actually owe, which is 1%.
That's not my opinion at all.
I think the covenants are clear.
I
And I
think they
think
are
that
too.
that's what Christopher was trying to say.
I think the covenants are clear and the law is clear regarding the covenant and the rights of the resort and the assignments that they received. And that, so does CSA. CSA has been acting in the same manner since its inception in 1989, 88. We've been taking and accepting the same conclusion of the covenants as was established in the bankruptcy court. And we've been accepting the payment at 0.5% of their revenues.
That's actually correct, but that is not what the lawyers.
Thank you. I suspect this isn't the forum to get into this, but
probably not.
But I think the accuracy of what you said CSA has been doing is undisputably correct. Whether the action they were taking is correct is a different question, but what they have been doing is for everybody to see. However, what we should also point out is the lawyers advising ASPO in response to requests made by Charlie Miner pointed out to the directors of ASPO that in their opinion, the resort should be paying 1%. And that is minuted by ASPO and was actually, they were contracted by Charlie Miner. And that is on record. That's in the minutes of ASPO.
Okay.
And also in those minutes, why they said it, I don't know, but they did. They also referred to the fact that CSA had also sought counsel's opinion. And that opinion has never been published, nor recorded in the minutes.
We don't record legal opinions in the minutes, so.
But why did Charlie Miner in the ASPO board meeting?
Charlie's here, I don't know. I mean, Charlie, you know, circumstantial, you don't have to talk about it, Charlie, but, you know, it's not.
We spent about a year, probably about almost 2 years negotiating with the resort over the issue of additional hotel rooms at Harbortown. And we received a number of concessions from the resort affecting the forest preserve, affecting their assessment. And one of the questions that was debated in that was, do they owe 0.5% or do they owe 1%? So it's a debate. There are two opinions on that. One opinion is that they do, and the other opinion is they don't. So how do you come up with the right answer? Well, unfortunately, there's only one real way to do that if you can't agree upon it. And so one way to agree upon it was to split the difference at 0.75. So that's what we did at that referendum. When that referendum went down, because in my opinion, the resort made a terrible mistake of trying to include Lawton Stables in that referendum. I think they would have done fine without that. But at any rate, it was clear that that wasn't going to pass, and they withdrew it. They withdrew the funding that they had planned, the $100 million in investment in Sea Pines. They moved it up to Kiowa instead. They reassigned their personnel to Kiowa, and they sat back and said, well, let's see what happens next. Well, what happens next is we said, we don't have enough money to run Sea Pines. And how are we going to get that? So we went through a series of evaluations and discussions about how we were going to get that. The resort came forward and said, we agree with you. You don't have enough money to run Sea Pines. We will if you will group together a fair assessment change for the three parties who constitute Sea Pines, the residents, the commercial, and the resort. Asking nothing in return, we will increase our assessment from 0.5 to 0.75%, a 50% increase. Now you can say to them, you can go back and say, well, that's not enough, we'd like 100% increase. And they will say, as they did to me, and furnished a lengthy legal opinion supporting their case for 0.5%, which dates back well before they even bought the place. It dates back to when the homeowners owned the place and then sold the shares. So the 0.5 has been around forever. And so they have a lengthy legal opinion. And we did a very thorough review of that legal opinion. We hired Nexon Pruitt, who is a fairly reputable attorney in this area. And they came back with a decision on it and said, here are your odds on being right on that question. As lawyers can tell you, if two lawyers have a different opinion, they're not both right. So the question became, well, how can we adjudicate this? So we decided to go one step further and retained a major litigation firm out of Atlanta. And they took a look at the whole thing. And they gave us an outline of what it would take to resolve it. They said, you can probably take about 5 years to get this done. It'll cost you about $500,000. And here's the incremental pieces that it's going to cost you to go through this. So I took a look at the assets of ASPO and said, well, we got $500,000 in assets. So if we spend every single penny we have and somebody's around for 5 years to fight this thing out, maybe we can come up with 1%. There's some other problems associated with that. One is called the statute of limitations. So how far back could you go? You can go back 3 years under federal and state Carolina law. So, okay, so we'll get $300,000 more and we'll spend $500,000 and we'll tear up this community with a lawsuit and we'll fight about this issue which has no absolute answer because both opinions have validity. What I have not shared with you, and I'm not going to share with you, is that Denton's, who was the litigation firm out of Atlanta, and Nexon Pruitt did an evaluation of what the odds were of our answer of 1% being correct. Now, if you go into litigation, you really don't want to give the other side all of your points. But I can guarantee you it was not 100%. I won't even suggest what it was. So we made a judgment as the ASPO board, and we reviewed this thoroughly with the board, that let's stop fighting about this thing. The resort wants to see the infrastructure improved here. They're willing to kick in their money. They've already put $150 million into this community with things like the new Harbortown Pier, for which we as residents paid zip. And we play on some of the best golf courses in the world, for which we as residents pay the fee to play, but have guaranteed rights on the golf course and things like that. So it's not a total one-way street that they are screwing us as residents. My personal opinion is that they're not. So when we have an offer to go to 0.75, it seems to me like that's a reasonable position. We can pound the table and demand another 0.25% and we can drive this thing into the ground. But even if we did, the odds of having any kind of a success out of that are not something that I thought was acceptable. So that's my answer. I can answer that. You codify it because they're not going to give it to you if they don't. So, no, they're not getting anything out of it. They're not. And if we defeat this thing, they'll continue paying 0.5%. So we'll lose that extra 0.25%. So no, they're not going to switch their payment method to something and have no verification that that's what they're supposed to pay. They're going to clean up that language so it's clear. And yes, it would codify it at 0.75%. So you would give up something you've never had forever, and you've never had it anyway. So.
How many actual dollars is in that 0.25%?
It's about 125,000, depends on 125 to 140, depends on how they do. It's a percentage of revenues. So back to the back. Rosemary.
Hi, Brett. Mike Wolf. Just a clarifying question here. In talking about the referendum and the need for money, if I remember correctly, the original proposal was going to generate about an additional $3 million a year for you had needs that accounted for about $2.5 million a year for each year over the next 7 years.
Yes. And that approximate, yes.
Right. I think we're moving the goalpost a little bit because I just heard you say we have needs that stretch out to 20 years. Well, we have needs that go on and on. And are those needs actually $2.5 million additional a year?
Well, it depends a lot on, Michael, on the assumptions that you make. And we've made, as I said, a very conservative future expense cost assumption at 1.5% inflation, which is our historical CPI. Okay, we don't anticipate, because we have not seen that happen, certainly not in labor and in other areas that we're talking about spending money on to get these things accomplished. So there was never an intention, although it's been brought up, that these things go away. You know, I think we talked a little bit today about the ongoing maintenance of this. Well, that ongoing maintenance and provision is 20 and 30 years out for many of these expenses, not 7 years out. The one that I think will go away, or at least be reduced significantly, because you'll just be reserving for replacement of building costs, would be the new operation at the gate. So that's really a one-time, then you're into maintenance kind of thing.
I guess I should say, first of all, my history is a government lobbyist. And I've never yet seen any governing agency actually decide to give money back once they get their hands on it. And I'm really troubled by the notion that we're going to write an amendment that gives the future boards $3 million a year if we get the same amount of money that we're anticipating. And they promise, well, if we don't need it, we'll give
Well,
it back.
there's no promise. There's no promise. It's an opportunity and an ability to reduce it in the future
Exactly. It's
based
not-
on costs and the needs of Sea Pines.
But we're locking in an additional $3 million in revenue per year for the board to do with as they see fit. And if they don't spend it all, they'll consider refunding some of it.
Well,
And
if they don't spend it on these purposes, we're talking about specifying it to the purposes that we've already identified. Okay, that's one of the components. And then looking at that in the future and seeing if those components are costing more or less than what we anticipated going forward.
I would suggest that you consider, since we're amending the covenants, we're changing the way we do business, rather than locking in a set amount of additional money, give yourself some flexibility to come back and ask for more money on an as-needed basis so that the board has a responsibility to come back to the residents.
They
Say,
will.
This is what we're going to do.
You know, I don't anticipate that in 20 years, our assumptions are going to remain valid. I mean, I just don't. I mean, all we can do is take a look at the future and make an estimate.
The one thing you are sure of is you're going to get an extra $3 million a year over your current, you're going to increase your budget by 50% forever.
Well, not 50%. It's not even close to that.
In the current budget, about $6 million a year.
No, the current budget is about $12 million.
I stand corrected. You're only going to increase your budget by 25%.
Right, and we're going to do it for a specific purpose, to do these things that we're not doing today or we're not doing prior to it. And, you know, the fundamental thing for a CSA anyway is that we are a nonprofit tax exempt. We have no purpose with your money other than these purposes. This is it. There's no reason, and we have no incentives. I mean, we're not distributing to stockholders. This money goes into the community. That's it for community services. There is no other purpose. Okay, anything else? Betsy.
Hi, my name is Betsy Griffith. I'm a resident of Sea Pines, and I've been here since 1972, in and out, whether on vacation or my parents owning a home. And when I arrived in 72, I just remember that the one thing that I had never heard a lot about was, everything I heard about was conservation, the environment, protecting what we have. And as I've listened today, I'm here for a specific purpose, but as I listen today as a resident, I realize we've got turtle trackers, we've got the alligator mapping, and this is all pretty interesting things to someone who lives here, who vacations here. The rest of the world doesn't really see what we have. I want them to continue to see what we have. And one of the things that I'm listening to today is community services. That means if we have another horrible hurricane or we have water issues that I know that Brett and the board has been working on, we're going to need to have the money for that. One of the things I'd like to bring to you today is education is power, I believe. And we're here today at 4 o'clock. If any of you are climate change believers or climate change skeptics, I have a speaker who will be here today at 4 with a nonpartisan, data-driven PowerPoint presentation that has been made to about 5,000 people across the country in 26 states. And they're here because I invited them for our community, because I think we need to know what kinds of things might be coming or what's on our plate in the future. So I hope you can be here at 4 o'clock to hear this presentation. Thank you.
Hi, Rosemary Kimball. I just wanted to thank Charlie for his explanation. And there's so much disinformation out there. I was wondering if we could tape record what Charlie said so that we could replay it, because most people do not understand all this. It really is very difficult to understand, but that was so beautiful. I think you should have that somewhere so people, on Facebook or wherever we have all these comments could go to and listen to his explanation.
Well, we did record it, so
You did?
he's kind of stuck.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, if you could just keep that little part and, send it out maybe. Because I think most of the people who live here and don't live here have no idea about that, and it explains it so beautifully. So I just think it's important to draw that to people's attention. Thank you, Charlie.
Going back to the funding issue,
Mhm.
one thing that has been very clearly outspoken in the different groups on Facebook and the forums is the fact that the gate fees coming, let me rephrase this, the resort managed properties that are not owned by the resort but managed for the property owners, they are exempt from paying the gate fee, the entry fee. And we know that that is a substantial source of funding within the budget. Has there been any discussion or talk to the resort in regards to treating those who are not resort owner properties, vacationers, managed by them, have them pay for the entry fee?
There's been tons of discussion.
And?
Lots. No, they are not amending their right. Question? No? Okay. Other questions? Thank you very much. Have a great month, great heritage.